Well, I won't back down. No, I won't back down. You could stand me up at the gates of hell, but I won't back down. No, I stand my ground, won't be turned around. And I'll keep this world from dragging me down. Gonna stand my ground, and I won't back down. Hey, baby, there ain't no easy way out. Hey, baby, I will stand my ground, and I won't back down. Well, I know what's right. I got just one life in a world that keeps on pushing me around, but I'll stand my ground, and I won't back down. Hey, baby, there ain't no easy way out. Hey, baby, and I won't back down. I will stand my ground. No, I won't back down. I will stand my ground, and I won't back down.
Y'all okay? We got a lot to talk about today. A lot to talk about today. Good morning, it's Uncle Lou here. That's right, it is me, Uncle Lou. Live on LouTube for you on a Sunday afternoon during the college football season. And that can only mean one thing. It's time for the weekly recap. The year season is over video for week 2 of the 2025 college football season. Some of you are very excited about today's video. Some of you are avoiding it like the plague. I get it. Believe me, I get it. But I know you're watching this eventually. If you're not watching it now, you're watching it later. Either way, I know you're watching. But we do have a lot to talk about. A lot to talk about. I want to start here. Week 2 is not any good. There's no good games in week 2. I don't know what's wrong with some of y'all. Now, you never know exactly how games are going to go. Like if it's going to be great endings or walk-off field goals or overtimes or upsets. Like we never really know what sort of mix of that kind of stuff we're going to get. But even leaving all that aside, and we had some of all of that yesterday, leaving all that aside, I don't know what y'all were looking at that y'all thought this was a terrible week of college football games. Now, I get it that week 1 was one of the best weeks we've had. You had 3 different games that were top 10 matchups, and you're likely not going to get that again at any point during the season. It's comparing it to week 1 is I don't know, it does it a disservice. It's one thing to say the week 1 games look better than the week 2 games, but a lot of you were just like, week 2 is terrible. There's no good games. Michigan and Oklahoma was the only good game. Michigan and Oklahoma ended up being a good game. But my God, there was so much more. And if you weren't watching yesterday, I mean, you just missed out on some great football, some great games, some great endings, some upsets, some rivalry games, some superhuman performances. It was a great day of football. I really don't know how any college football fan watched football yesterday or even looked at yesterday's schedule and went, I can take this today off. There's no good game. There was a lot of good games. A lot of good games. Before we get to the lovable losers down here, which I know is why you're here. Yes, we're going to do the year season is over deal. We're going to do the point and laugh. We've got 9 helmets down there to point and laugh at today. I've got the usual list of teams that won and didn't look good. I've got the list of teams that won, but I thought did look good. What else do I have here? I've got it all today. I've literally got it all today. We've got the We're Back updated top 6 list. We've got the best teams I saw play this weekend. We've got the Heisman list. I've got 3 players on my Heisman list right now. We've got the paper plate special. We got the paper plate special. We've got the bad beat of the week. I might start adding this in. It might not be the worst beat of the week, but it's the worst beat of the week that I took. So Uncle Lou's bad beat of the week. What else do we have? Of course, we got the Juice Poot special. We've got the Juice Poot special. A lot to get to. So before we get to the list of losers, though, there is one thing I want to do. I'm fixing to show you a score on the screen right now from a game yesterday. And then I just want you to think about the first thing that comes to mind when you see this score. Just whatever that happens to be. I'm going to show you the score. Just, you can type it down below and let me know, but you don't have to. I want you to think to yourself, when you see this score, what's the first thing you think of? Here's the score right here. Minnesota, 66. Some can of corn, 0. Just whatever you happen to think about that score, I'm not pushing you one direction or another or telling you what to think or what not to think. Just what did you think? What crossed your mind was the first thing that entered your mind when you saw that score. Okay. You want to know the first thing that didn't enter my mind when I saw that score? In fact, at no point did it enter my mind yesterday after that game was over and I saw the final score of that game. Not one point did it enter my mind that must mean Minnesota is really good. Never crossed my mind. I saw that score and I went, wow, Minnesota beat up an elementary school. And I kept on going about my day, whatever I was doing, 2 seconds before I saw that score. And I never gave another thought to it until I came across the score again this morning when I was compiling my copious notes for this Your Season Is Over video. So what did you think when you saw that score? If you saw it yesterday or if you just now saw it for the first time, what do you think? Minnesota 66, some nobody, 0. Is Minnesota a top 10 team? Are they winning the Natty? Are they winning the Big Ten? Are they making a bowl game? What was the first thing you thought when you saw that score? We'll get back to that later, okay? We'll get back to that point later. Just want you to keep that in mind. Now, let's move to the lovable list of losers. Oh, boy, what kind of order do we want to go in here? I've got a couple of teams I've got written down on here that we didn't take their helmets down. It's like, maybe we'll get to those too. Kansas State lost to Army. All right, point and laugh at Lou. I picked Kansas State to win the Big 12 for the second year in a row. Now, I don't know what's wrong with me because I picked them last year and they were a huge fucking disappointment. Avery Johnson did not live up to the hype last year, and Kansas State lost games they had no business losing and just didn't look like a very good team. So what did I do this offseason? I fucking doubled down on the same Kansas State team, the same Avery Johnson team, the same Chris Kleiman team, and they're even worse this year than they were last year. They're even worse. They lost to Army yesterday, 24-21. They're terrible. I don't know what else to say. I was dead wrong. I had them ranked in my top 15 in the preseason. I don't have them in the top 15 anymore. But they were my team. They were my pick to win the Big 12. Now, in an attempt to make myself feel better, there's about 8 teams you could have thrown a dart and hit any of those 8 teams in the preseason, and maybe, maybe they win it, maybe they don't. And they were one of those teams in the preseason. But boy, 2 weeks in, 3 games for them, and they've yet to look like a decent football team in 3 weeks. They're now 1-2, and they're just absolute dog shit. And they're on Uncle Lou's do not mention list from here on out until they actually do something on the football field. So I will not be picking Kansas State to win the Big 12 anymore in the future. I will not be picking them to make the playoffs or anything like that until they actually do one of those things. I'm completely off the Chris Kleiman, the Kansas State, and the Avery Johnson train. Completely off. They're dog shit. But congratulations to Army, I guess. All right. Well, let's go to UNLV and UCLA. That won't take long. UCLA lost again. They're now 0-2. They got their brains beat in last week by Utah, and UNLV did basically the same thing to them yesterday. UNLV got up to a huge lead, coasted in the second half. UCLA did score some points in the second half and ended up losing 23-30. So that they did score in the second half. And actually, Nico, for what it's worth, played a lot better against UNLV than he played the week before against Utah. But the guy is clueless and lost. And I mentioned this yesterday. I don't know if I've ever seen a player in college football, as long as I've been watching and following it, that is as universally disliked as Nico. I think yesterday I said hated, and maybe hate is not the right word. I mean, I think probably if you're watching a college football player and hating them, no matter who it is, that might be a little too far. Maybe we shouldn't hate any of them, but he is so disliked by an overwhelming majority of college football fans, whether they're Tennessee fans, non-Tennessee fans, SEC people, it doesn't matter. Like, everybody's just like, yeah, I hope Nico never wins a game or completes pass ever again. Like, it's just odd. Outside of his immediate family and a handful of UCLA fans that may or may not exist, nobody likes him. And it's getting to the point now where he is so disliked and there are so many people rooting against him that it almost makes me feel bad for him. I said almost. I'm still enjoying watching him lose and watching him struggle. And he did it again yesterday. I'm not going to waste a lot of time on UCLA other than to say Nico's terrible. And UNLV is 3-0. Chances are your team ain't 3-0, unless maybe you're Iowa State. But UNLV, 3-0. Yeah. 3-0. And that's something. What is Billy Napier's record? Dan Mullen's got, God dang. Dan Mullen's 3-0. Billy Napier's 1-1. Wow. Dan Mullen's got a win against an FCS school and a win against a Power 4 school. Dan Mullen's got a win against Epstein Island and a loss to an in-state G5 school. Wow. Billy Napier. All right, plenty on that later. Let's move along. Let's not get bogged down in the weeds here. We got other shit to talk about. Oklahoma State. Holy shit. Still like the helmet. I think it's a good-looking helmet, but my God, they got humbled yesterday. I saw this coming. I saw so many similarities during the week leading up to this game with the Oregon-Colorado game from 2 years ago. If you remember that one, you could just tell that something about Colorado pissed Dan Lanning off the week leading up to that game. And there was all the comments about, they play for clicks, we play for wins and all this kind of stuff. And it just got kind of testy. There was the pregame stuff on the field there with the Colorado players. And you could just feel it. And Oregon came out and put a beating on Colorado, the likes of which they hadn't seen before and hadn't seen since under Dion. It was an absolute destruction of Colorado that day. The week leading up to this game, Oklahoma State on the road at Oregon. Gundy, who has a set of issues now a mile long and does not need to be coaching in college football anymore. Maybe I'll talk more about that in a second. He needs to get out of college football quick, fast, and in a hurry. But anyway, he had some ignorant comments to make this week leading up to the game. Not directly like derogatory towards Oregon, but suggesting that Oregon just has more money and that's the only reason they're any good. And, we don't have near the money they have, and we shouldn't even have to play them. Non-con games should be matched up between the amounts of money that the football departments are spending every year, which is just ridiculous. But that's what he said. Dan Lanning was asked about it, and he gave the right answer. He was like, look, I'm not going to apologize for working for a university that actually wants to win and appreciates what you have to do to accomplish that. I'm not going to apologize. I'm glad I work for a university that's willing to give me the resources I need, that's willing to spend the money. I'm not going to apologize for that. And this is Dan Lanning talking. And he goes, and as far as Gundy saying that non-con games should be matched up based off revenue, they played UT Martin the week before. I'm pretty sure Oklahoma State spends way more than UT Martin. I didn't hear Gundy beating the drum about how they shouldn't be playing UT Martin last week. You could just tell it pissed Lanning off. And I said, oh boy, this reminds me of the Colorado game. It was even worse, y'all. I didn't watch much of this game. I said, okay, if I'm wrong, I'll watch. But if I'm right, it ain't going to be worth watching. So we kept an eye on the score in the first quarter, and it was 28-0, like in no time. This game was one of the worst Power 4 versus Power 4 matchups you'll see in terms of just complete and utter domination. 69-3. Oregon beats Oklahoma State, but it was 69-3 in the third quarter. Oregon just gave up basically. They didn't even try to do anything the last quarter and a half of the game basically. And they beat Oklahoma State 69-3. Well, Dan, point proven, bud. And honestly, you kind of helped Gundy prove the point he was trying to make too, which is that, no, they can't compete. But I think more than it being a money issue, it's a Gundy issue. Let me ask you this. Who do you think spends more on their football program between Oklahoma State and Illinois? Oklahoma State and Duke. Oklahoma State and Vandy. In other words, I get it. Oklahoma State's not Ohio State. Oklahoma State's not Texas. Oklahoma State's not Oregon. Whatever. Fill in the blank. The top 5 or 10 schools in the country in terms of spending money on their athletic program. But Oklahoma State ain't Vandy or Duke either. I mean, they got billionaire donors. Let's not forget who in their stadium named after, what's his name? The oil tycoon billionaire. They got money. T. Boone Pickens. They've got money. They've got money. They're not what I would describe as a poverty program financially. Now, whether or not they're choosing to invest enough in football, that's a debate for Oklahoma State to have internally. But this, standing on the college football corner, ringing your Salvation Army bell because you got to go play Oregon, that's a bad look. And I, for one, am glad they beat the absolute life out of you yesterday. And I don't know why Gundy is still involved in college football when he so clearly hates it. He may love coaching, but he hates what college football is today. He's got to be a multimillionaire. Why not quit and go coach recreation or high school football, bud? I mean, that might be more your speed at this point. Oklahoma State has fallen off a cliff. They won 9 or 10 games a couple of years ago, went 3-9 last year. And from what I've seen out of them the first couple of weeks of the season, they're not making a bowl game again this year. It's time for Oklahoma State to move on from Gundy. And up until a few years ago, I didn't think I would ever say it. I think everybody liked Gundy at some point. And maybe to a certain degree, some of us still do. He kind of said whatever. He was almost like a watered down version of Mike Leach a little bit. He didn't necessarily go to the lengths that Mike Leach went to in terms of, no filter, saying what was on his mind, that kind of thing. But he had the famous "I'm a man, I'm 40" speech where he yelled at the media. And, anytime you yell at the media, people like that. And I don't know, it seemed like he was like a popular sort of press conference coach, good personality, that kind of thing. And then I noticed during COVID, maybe it's because I was just paying more attention during COVID because there was nothing else to do. I don't know. But to me, he seemed, his whole attitude and sort of the way he approached things seemed to change during COVID. And I don't know. Since then, he's just, NIL and transfer portal and complaining about everybody else's pockets and money. It's just not a good look. It's not a good look. And then, they got mad. Mike Gundy had a bunch of dumb shit to say when Oklahoma left to join the SEC. And I don't know whose fault it is that Oklahoma and Oklahoma State don't play anymore. Oklahoma blames Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State blames Oklahoma. It's no different than the Texas A&M thing from 15 years ago when Texas A&M left to join the SEC. And, did Texas refuse to schedule them? Did A&M? It's the Spider-Man meme where they're pointing their fingers at each other. But it's just, I don't know, the last 4 or 5 years for Gundy has not been good. And if I was an Oklahoma State fan, it'd be one of these thank you for your service, my guy, but we're headed in a different direction type of deal. Almost like the way Georgia fans got with Mark Richt at the end. Not comparing Mark Richt's resume to Gundy's one way or the other. He's been there a long time, Gundy has, and you get comfortable, and fans get comfortable, and the administration and the staff get comfortable. It's time to let this guy go. I don't think he cares about the game of college football, and I don't think Oklahoma State is going to put a meaningful product on the field as long as he's roaming that sideline. I just think it's passed him by. Just my opinion, but Oklahoma State, along with UCLA, your season is over, bud. Duke, man, this game was interesting for a while. It's hard to tell. I know this black helmet here is the Duke helmet. Let me see if I can. It does have the D on it. It's just hard to see. But anyway, this game was interesting for almost 3 quarters. Now, I thought, and I watched all of this game, it was pretty obvious to me from pretty early on in the game that Illinois was the better team. Maybe not miles better, but they had a few more athletes. They seemed to be a little bit better on the line of scrimmage. They definitely had better quarterback play. And so early in the game, you're like, boy, home field advantage might be the only thing Duke has going for them here. And I think it turned out that was kind of the case. Duke, I think, was feeding off the crowd early in that game and was able to keep it close. But Illinois was just too good, too talented, too well coached for them in the end and made too many plays. And they pull away late and end up winning 45-19. So it ended up not being a close game at all. Illinois outscored Duke 17-0 in the fourth quarter. So what's 49 minus 17? 30. So it was 32-19 entering the fourth quarter, a 2-score game. And Illinois just poured it on there in the fourth quarter, outscoring the Dukies 17-0 in the fourth quarter. Look, Duke had 5 turnovers. You're not going to win very many games when you turn the ball over 5 times. They only threw 1 interception, but they lost 4 fumbles. Some of that's just dumb luck. I mean, you would think if you had 4 fumbles in a game, you'd be lucky enough to maybe recover 2 of them. So maybe you have 4 fumbles, but you only lose 2. No, they lost all 4. So 5 turnovers total, plus a little bit of a talent gap there, I think, anyway. Not shitting on Duke. It was only a 3-point line. It was pretty obvious if you watched that game that Illinois was the better team, and they pulled away 45-19. So Duke, your season is over. Altmaier has looked good early this year for Illinois. He was their quarterback last year. He's back again this year. Illinois was a lot of people's sort of potential 4th Big Ten team, maybe even 3rd, to get into the playoffs. Kind of sort of this year's Indiana. Not comparing the teams, but I mean a non-traditional power from the Big Ten that gets into the playoffs. People were saying maybe Illinois. They looked the part early on. We'll see. The meat of their schedule obviously is ahead of them. We're just a couple of weeks in, but it looked good yesterday on the road at Duke, 45-19. Altmaier, 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Duke only had 82 yards rushing the ball. That's what I was getting at with the line of scrimmage deal. They just couldn't get anything going on the ground at all. I mean, you rush for 82 yards in a game, you're likely to lose, and that's what they did. And I mentioned the 4 fumbles. Now let's talk about one of the best games of the night. And I know I don't normally do this. Well, I'll tell you in a second. Arizona State lost yesterday. They were top 10 in some people's rankings, top 15 in some people's rankings. They're the defending Big 12 champion. They made the playoffs last year. Gave Texas, I believe it was, everything they wanted in a playoff game. Looked good. They returned 10 of 11 starters on defense, a defense that was ranked number 1 against the run last year in the Big 12. Sam Levitt's back at quarterback. They have 2 wide receivers that are going to be drafted, probably next draft. They did lose Scatterboo, but you say, okay, they got a lot back. Should be good again. But if you remember back to last year, Mississippi State damn near beat them last year on the road at Arizona. And yesterday, they pulled it off. And while I don't normally talk about the winners, I do want to take a second here, just a second, because we talk about losers here, and we're going to get back to the losers. Mississippi State just doesn't get many huge wins like this. So this is a big win for Mississippi State. And we're going to point and laugh at Arizona State in a minute. And so if we want to say, well, Arizona State's no good, they're overrated, Mississippi State's still dog shit. Okay, maybe. But, they should have their moment here. They rush the field, the goalposts out. They just don't, they don't have a lot of that. Now, the cowbell thing is annoying. Fucking dumb shit cowbell thing. But this is a huge win for Mississippi State. So there you go. Shout out to Mississippi State. I don't normally talk about the winners or congratulate them, but we don't get to talk about Mississippi State winning very often. So there you go. This was an unbelievable game. An unbelievable game. The thing that shocked me the most, and I didn't realize it was this bad. I mean, we watched this game too, all of it. As you're watching the games, you sometimes can tell, wow, this quarterback's not having his best day. Or something. But because I'm not a stat tracker. I don't watch games and then every 5 minutes I'm checking the stats. Now, in the mornings when I get ready to make these videos on Sunday mornings, I'll sit down and if something interested me from a game, I'll look the stat up or whatever. So I said, let me just look up what Levitt did, because it seemed like he didn't have that great of a game. And again, we watched it all on the Patreon stream last night. Sam Levitt was 10 of 22. That's not good at all. 10 of 22. 82 yards passing. I mean, I had to refresh the screen when I saw that. I was like, that can't be right. 10 of 22, 82 yards passing, 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions. Not good. The Mississippi State quarterback, on the other hand, Chapin, 19 of 33, 279 yards, 3 touchdowns and no interceptions. He's looked good all year. He looked good at times last year. I think he's back from an injury too. But is Jeff Levy running that thing there? Is that who that is? That offense is humming. Now, they got a gauntlet of a schedule to get through in the SEC, and I don't expect them to win 9 or 10 games. But, boy, they looked yesterday like that's not the only big game they're going to win. That's what it looked like to me. That they're good enough, especially at home, and Georgia's got to play them there later, but they're good enough, I think, at home to where if they play well like they played yesterday, they might beat another top 10 or top 15 team before the season is up. I mean, they look really good. But anyway, you're not going to win this game, Arizona State. Sam Levitt, a veteran quarterback, 10 of 22 for 82 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. That's not getting it done. Now, I mentioned Arizona State's defense returning 10 of 11 from last year and being ranked number 1 last year against the run in the Big 12. So you'd expect them to be good against the run again. They were great against the run yesterday. Against the run, Mississippi State only had 66 yards rushing. So Mississippi State couldn't run the ball, but they lit it up through the air. Arizona State couldn't throw the ball. Sam Levitt had a bad day. So were they able to run it? No, not nearly enough. They ran for 251 yards? Not enough. They had 2 turnovers. Mississippi State 0 turnovers. In a close game on the road, if you lose the turnover battle 2-0, you're likely to lose the game. That's what makes the Colorado game so impressive from a couple of weeks ago when the Georgia Tech game at Colorado. Remember Georgia Tech turned the ball over 3 times on the first 3 possessions? And Georgia Tech ain't no world-beating team. I mean, they're decent, but they're not the type of team that can do that, but they still somehow won, and it was amazing. Arizona State, not good enough to do it. They fall. Turnovers got them. The inability to throw the ball got them. This thing was a wild ending. First of all, Mississippi State gets out to this huge lead, 17-0, basically in the first quarter. I think it was actually 10-0 in the first quarter, and they scored early in the second quarter. And then the Mississippi offense just went to sleep. We didn't see them again until the end of the game. But they were up 17-0. And then slowly, Arizona State started to creep back into the game. A field goal here, a touchdown there. And the next thing you know, you look up towards the end of the fourth quarter, and that thing was tied up. That thing was tied up. Arizona State actually scored to take the lead 20-17. Mississippi State gets the ball back with, what was it, 1 minute and 15 seconds or something? Second play from scrimmage, I think. 80-yard touchdown or whatever it was. I'm just, holy shit. I mean, an unbelievable game, an unbelievable ending. And again, shout out to the Mississippi State fans. Sven, a Mississippi State fan who's been around this channel forever, lives in Germany, but he's a massive college football fan, and he's been around here forever. He's a big Mississippi State fan. Congratulations to you, Sven, and the rest of the Mississippi State fans. But Arizona State, is that a bad loss? See, this is where it gets tricky for you anti-SEC people, right? Is this a bad loss? You're going to say, well, it's a good loss. Mississippi State might be a good team, and the SEC is tough. Then you turn around the following week and go, the SEC is dog shit because such and such. Well, which is it? Which is it? Where do you think Mississippi State's going to finish at the end of the year in terms of the SEC? There's 16 teams. Are they 10th? Are they 13th? Do you think they're top 5 in the SEC? They're not. They're not. They're not. Arizona State might still be the best team in the Big 12, though. That ain't good, bud. That ain't good. I don't know. Anyway, it was a great game. It was a great game, but there you go, Arizona State. Michigan. Oh, boy. Michigan season is over if they have to play any more road games. My God, Bryce Underwood looked terrible in this game. Absolutely terrible. All the hype in the world around this guy. And I'm going to be honest. And look, I'm not permanently going to, I'm not going to form a permanent conclusion about Bryce Underwood right now after only 2 games. This was a tough spot for him on the road in Norman yesterday against a really good and talented Brent Venables defense. Brent Venables is one of the best defensive minds. So I'm not gonna form any permanent conclusions here about my buddy Bryce Underwood. But he does remind me of Jalen Milroe. He's big. He honestly reminds me of Alex Orji. He's big like that. It's hard to, when he moves around, like he doesn't really, it's hard. He didn't look good. He looked lost. He's not going to be the next Jalen Milroe, is he? I don't know. It didn't look good. Oklahoma, I said this about the Duke-Illinois game. It's true with this game. Oklahoma was the better, more talented, and better coached team from the word go. Now, I'm not here to, it's not necessarily an insult to Michigan. Michigan could still win a lot of games. I mean, we saw what they did last year with no offense at all, no quarterback at all. I mean, Michigan's not going 2-10. I'm not trying to suggest that. But you look at some of the numbers from this game, it just never looked like Michigan was better at anything than Oklahoma. Let's get to the Russian numbers because there's something I want to mention. Well, I'll just go in order here. The Oklahoma quarterback, because we already talked about Bryce Underwear. The Oklahoma quarterback, it's only week 2. That's the best quarterback performance I've seen this year. Have I watched every college football game? No. I watched about 12 or 15 yesterday. I watched probably about 20 last week during week 1 because we had 5 days of games, and then I watched 3 in week 0. So whatever, I haven't seen every game but I've watched a lot, and that was the best quarterback performance. There was a lot of complaints last week, right, about bad quarterback play in all the marquee games: Texas, Ohio State, Clemson, LSU. You had some good quarterback play in the Miami Notre Dame game. If you like good quarterback play, John Mateer was your man yesterday. And look, Michigan's got a good defense too. We can talk all we want about that Oklahoma defense. Michigan's defense, no slouch either. Now, the obvious difference yesterday between Mateer and Bryce Underwear, Mateer was playing at home, Underwear on the road. Mateer is a veteran, been around a long time now. It's his first year at Oklahoma, but he's got a ton of experience at Washington State. And it's the same offensive coordinator that, Oklahoma hired his offensive coordinator and then got him out of the portal as a package deal. So, look, a clear difference there. Experience-wise, and Mateer being at home. That's the best quarterback performance I've seen this season. There's been some other good ones. Hell, the guy from South Florida has had 2 really good games. I don't think either of his games individually was as good as what I saw John Mateer do yesterday. And the thing with John Mateer is not only can he make all the throws, read the defenses, get you in and out of the right plays, all the kinds of things you need to be able to do to just play the position of quarterback, he can run around too. I mean, he ain't no statue in the pocket. The guy's a magician back there. I mean, Michigan pass rush was legit yesterday, and they had several opportunities to get to him. And I think they only actually ended up sacking him 1 time, maybe twice. It reminded me a little bit of Jackson Arnold against Baylor back in week 1, where almost as soon as Jackson Arnold would get the snap in a shotgun, the damn Baylor defense would be back there in the backfield, but he'd just spin around or duck under one or they couldn't get him down. And that's how it was yesterday. And, Mateer scramble out. And the thing about Mateer, when the pocket breaks down, and I love this about a quarterback, and this I would think, I've never played quarterback at any level. I played defense for what little football I did play. But I would think this one of the hardest things for a quarterback to do is when the pocket starts to break down or you feel pressure and you have to scramble or extend the play, it's got to be hard to, you hear this all the time. When he's scrambling, he needs to keep his eyes downfield. That's got to be hard to do because your natural instinct would be to keep your eyes on the nearest guy that's trying to tackle you or hit you, whether that be a linebacker, a blitzing linebacker, or a lineman or whatever. Mateer is great at that. His first instinct when protection breaks down and he has to scramble a little is to get outside and throw the ball. He keeps his eyes downfield. He takes off and runs when he needs to, but if you didn't watch, he played really good. If you watched the game, you already know, but he played really, really good. He was 21 of 34 for 270 yards and a touchdown. He did throw an interception, but I'll forgive him for that. He played so good otherwise. 21 of 34, 270 yards, a touchdown and an interception. And then he rushed for 74 yards and 2 more touchdowns. So 3 touchdowns total. And 350 yards of total offense between passing and running against a top 10, probably Michigan defense. It might be top 5. I'm not saying it's not top 5. I'm saying at a minimum, there's not 10 defenses I don't think better than Michigan. So I guess is what I'm trying to say. And so that was a great performance yesterday by John Mateer. The exact opposite of what we saw from Bryce Underwear. And again, I'm forcing myself to not form any permanent conclusions here because it is only his second ever start. He is just a true freshman, and it was his first ever start on the road against a defensive mastermind in Brent Venables and a very talented Oklahoma defense. So I'm not here to tell you that Bryce Underwear is never going to be a good quarterback and can't ever do anything down the road. But boy, deer in headlights yesterday. Not good. Not good at all for Bryce Underwear. Neither team ran the ball particularly well outside of John Mateer. He ran the ball well. But neither team really could establish much of a running game. Now, Michigan did end up with 146 yards rushing, which is pretty good against an Oklahoma defense. But 75 of that was on one play. Justice Haynes had a 75-yard touchdown run to start the third quarter, literally the first play of the third quarter. Oklahoma kicks it off, touchback, Michigan 1st and 10 on the 25, handoff, left tackle, gone, 75 yards, touchdown. So they had 146 rushing yards. Over half of that came on one play. So in the rest of the game, they had 75 yards rushing. Just not good at all. Not good at all. Oklahoma, 60 yards rushing besides Mateer. So I told you Mateer had 74 yards rushing, right? Was that the number? Where'd it go? Yeah, Mateer had 74 yards rushing. The rest of the Oklahoma team, 60. And what happened to Jaden Ott? Somebody explain Jaden Ott. There's got to be an Oklahoma fan watching. Everybody wanted Jaden Ott out of the portal. Running back from Cal, I think it was. Unbelievable season last year. Top-rated running back in the portal. Everybody wanted him. He ends up at Oklahoma. The guy's been a ghost 2 weeks into the season. Just nothing. Is he hurt? Is he injured? What? Does he not know the offense? I don't know. I mean, it's pretty obvious you don't have somebody that's a million times better because your running backs can't run the ball. So I just have Jaden Ott question mark written down. What's going on? What's something? I don't know. Bryce Underwear was 9 of 24 for 142 yards and -1 rushing yards. This is the second week in a row that he hasn't ran the ball. Now, I asked some Michigan fans during the week. I said, okay, I watched some of the Michigan-New Mexico game. Underwear looked pretty good throwing the ball, but why didn't he? There was no running around at all. And they're like, oh, you'll see it this week. They're, the whole we're hiding the playbook deal from Oklahoma. There's no need to do it against New Mexico. Well, they needed it yesterday, and he didn't have it. For everything Mateer did in the pocket to get loose, escape pressure, roll out, extend plays, Bryce Underwear couldn't do any of that. He ends up with -1 yards rushing and only 142 passing on 9 of 24. Here's a weird stat that disproves everything I've ever said about turnovers, basically. Oklahoma turned the ball over twice and won. Michigan only turned it over once. But anyway, or didn't turn it over at all. Oklahoma, 2 turnovers. Michigan, none. Oklahoma still gets the win, 24-13. And like I said, this game was... There was really never a time where I was watching this game and I thought Oklahoma might lose. The score was within reach for Michigan for most of the game. But I don't know, Oklahoma fans that were watching, was there ever a point in this game where you were nervous? Maybe when Justice Haynes ripped off that 75-yard touchdown run to make it a 7-point game, maybe you started to get a little queasy there. But they just weren't able to do anything after that. So that went away quick. But I don't know. It was pretty clear to me Oklahoma was the better team. They get the win over Michigan 24-13. Connor Stallions could have helped you, or I don't know. I don't know. Iowa and Iowa State. Iowa and Iowa State. I like watching the Iowa State game. Okay, it's a rivalry game, Cy-Hawk deal. Occasionally, you see a handful of good players there, but I'm not gonna lie. It's not great football. It's not great TV football. It's not. It's pretty boring. It's very conservative every year. Usually, if any team scores even 1 touchdown, they're almost guaranteed to win. This is a lot of field goals, and it was that way yesterday. I think the first 4 or 5 scores yesterday were field goals. It was some weird score like, I don't know, what was it, 12-3 at one point or 9-6 at one, whatever it was. Each team did end up scoring a touchdown, but not enough offense for Iowa per normal, yet again, for the however many years in a row. And their quarterback really didn't play well. They brought in a transfer from North Dakota State, I believe it was, Gronowski. Yeah, he didn't look good. He looked out of his element. What did he say? Fish out of water. That's kind of what it looked like. Now, Beck, on the other hand, for Iowa State, he played pretty good. Final score 16-13. So again, if you like the close games, Iowa State kicked a game-winning field goal at the end. What a shock. Each team scored 1 touchdown. And then Iowa had 2 field goals. That's how they got to 13. And Iowa State got 3 field goals. That's how they got to 16. So it's, again, don't watch these games expecting some sort of offensive clinic or a whole bunch of amazing skill position players. But if you like big, fat white boys on the line of scrimmage and chunky quarterbacks that love to pick up 4 yards between the tackles, Iowa State is the game for you. Congratulations to Iowa State. They get to win 16-13, game-winning field goal. 210 yards passing. For Iowa? No. For Iowa State? No. 210 yards passing total, combined in this game. 210 yards passing total, both teams combined. Wow. Unbelievable. 230 rushing yards combined in this game. So barely less than 450 yards of total offense in this game combined for both teams. Wait till we get to the SMU Baylor game. It was the exact opposite. Rocco bet way better than Gronowski. I have that written down. Talked about that already. This game came down to defense, quarterback play, and home field advantage. The game was in Iowa State. They had the better quarterback. They had home field advantage. Same thing with Oklahoma. Better quarterback, more experienced quarterback, and home field advantage, and they won the game. Same thing here. Defense, quarterback play, home field advantage. What are you going to do? Nothing you can do. All right, let's see. We've talked about Iowa, UCLA, Duke, Oklahoma State, Arizona State, Michigan. We got Kansas, SMU, and Florida. Better talk about Kansas. Kansas disappointed me a little. Did I get a little bit ahead of myself with Kansas? Maybe, although I never even had them ranked. So it wasn't like I thought they were winning a natty. But man, I've been hyping up Jalen Daniels and just didn't really have it yesterday. He made some plays, and he's fun to watch. Every time he has the ball in his hands, you feel like something good could happen. He's just a playmaker. He's just, I don't know, he's fun to watch. But Missouri pulled away from this thing. In the end. They scored a couple of touchdowns late in the fourth quarter. And where's this at? They ended up winning 42-31. 2 late touchdowns to win the game. Kansas in this game, 3 rushing yards. 3. Alarming, considering Jalen Daniels had 21 rushing yards in this game. That means the running backs combined for negative 18 yards or whatever it is. Whatever. What the fuck, man? How do you... it's mind-boggling. Missouri had 261 yards rushing. And I haven't even mentioned their quarterback, who's unbelievable. That Pibula or whatever, he had 330 yards and 3 touchdowns. That Tibula, the leg bone, that's what I'm going to call him. What's his name? Bo Tibula, the leg bone quarterback at Missouri. He had 220 yards. No, Jalen Daniels, 220 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. The leg bone had 330 yards and 3 touchdowns. Missouri also ran for 261 yards. Like I mentioned, Kansas only 3 yards rushing. And considering that Jalen Daniels had 21, but they only finished with 3, that means the running backs combined for negative 18 yards rushing. Not going to win very many games that way. So Kansas goes down. Your season is over. A rivalry game. Shout out to Mizzou. Mizzou's offense looks pretty good. The run defense was great yesterday. We'll see. Again, like a lot of other teams that we've talked about already, and a lot that we haven't talked about, the meat of the schedule all coming up for a lot of these teams. But we'll see. Missouri's won 9-10 games a couple of years in a row. They've benefited from less than the most difficult schedule in the SEC. Some people would call it an easy schedule in the SEC. We'll see on Missouri, but they lost a lot off of last year's team. They seem to have replaced it and not really missed a beat, which is surprising to me. I'm going to be honest. Again, we'll see once the SEC play starts, but they get another win. Kansas, your season is over. And SMU and Baylor, okay, talked about less than 450 yards of total offense in the Iowa State game. Well, if that's not your cup of tea, let me introduce you to SMU versus Baylor yesterday. Over 1,000 yards of total offense in that game. Baylor avoids starting 0-2. They beat SMU 48-45. If you like track meet games, if you like those old Big 12 games from 10 years ago, when everybody was scoring 40 and 50 points, this game would have been right up your alley. Right up your alley. Let's see. Baylor, 600 yards of offense. SMU, 460 yards of offense. That's over 1,000 yards of total offense. Defense, optional in this one. It was a literal track meet. They were 40-something points scored in the first half of this game. The scoring actually slowed down a little bit in the second half, but 48 to 45. Baylor gets the win over SMU to avoid starting 0-2 because, Baylor had lost to the Barn in week 1. And SMU has put themselves in a situation now where they're probably going to have to win the ACC if they want to get into the college football playoff. I don't see them getting in any other way at this point. Now, to be fair, I don't think they're making the ACC championship game anyway. They've got a much more difficult schedule in the ACC this season than they had last season. So it's not that I think SMU is like a way worse team or anything than they were last year. In fact, I think they're probably about the same because their schedule is more difficult. I don't think they're making the ACC championship game. And because they have a non-con loss to Baylor, that's really going to hurt their chances of getting any sort of at-large, like third bid from the ACC if the ACC were to even get 3. So I don't know. SMU could be in trouble in terms of making the playoffs. I still think they're a good team. I don't think they're bad. Like I said, I think they're about as good as they were last year, which is pretty good. Schedule a little more difficult. That's what worries me about them going forward. All right. We've wasted enough time. It's time to talk about this absolute fucking disaster and joke of not just a team, but of a football program. The Florida football program, like Uncle Lou has been telling you for quite some time, died a while ago. Actually, contrary to popular belief, a lot of people think it died yesterday. This program's been dead for a while, guys. They haven't won the SEC in 17 years. They haven't won the SEC since 2008. They are celebrating a coach for going 7-5. Now, not today. Today they're all pretending they hate Billy Napier and they want him fired and he's terrible and he's not any good and he shouldn't be his own offensive coordinator because he calls terrible plays and it's the same problems every year. The team is undisciplined and blah, blah. Basically the same thing I've been telling them every fucking day for 3 years straight. All of a sudden now they know all that. I mean, this was a bad performance and a bad loss. Look, South Florida might be a pretty good team. In fact, they are a pretty good team. They beat Boise State. They've now beat Florida. They are a pretty good team. But that's what we've been telling Florida. Like, you can't beat good teams. You can't be good if you can't beat good. Now, you don't have to beat them all. But I'm seriously asking the Florida man right now to look on your schedule at the games that are left and tell me how many of those games do you think are going to be easier than South Florida? And again, I'm not saying that to shit on South Florida. Right now, South Florida is probably the front runner to make the playoffs from the group of 5. But y'all ran around all offseason saying you were winning the SEC and going 10-2 and making the playoffs and winning the Natty and Lagway's winning the Heisman. If any of that was even close to being true, you would have beat the group of 5 representative to the playoffs. What is the talking point about the group of 5 team that gets in a playoff? Oh, it's a waste of a spot. They're not going to beat any playoff team. They're not any good. They shouldn't even be there. They're not top 20. Yeah, I know. South Florida is good for a group of 5 school. The group of 5 schools don't even belong in the same classification as the Power 4. I've been saying this for years. They need to break away like FCS did and have their own postseason. They don't belong because they're never, ever going to win a natty in the age of the 12-team playoff. I don't care how good a G5 team gets. They are never beating 4 top 10 teams in a row to win a national title. Never. Can they win one? Yeah. At any time. We've seen it. Boise State beat Oklahoma in the Cotton Bowl a million years ago. UCF beat Auburn in the Peach Bowl or whatever that was. Yeah, they can win one of those games. They can get way up to play a game against a team who's probably disappointed to be there and win. Yes, we see them do it all the time. They're not doing that 4 weeks in a row in a playoff against teams who do want to be there. So if anything that the Florida fan diarrheaed out of his stupid fucking mouth all offseason were true, they would have beat South Florida. Running around today telling people, well, South Florida's a good team. And we knew that. The point was, you aren't. That's the point. The point isn't that all of a sudden people realize South Florida's good. We knew that. We also knew you weren't. Everybody except you and Josh Pate knew that. It's really weird. It's really weird. But this was bad. A lot of red flags in this game that have been popping up year after year at Florida under Billy Napier. Undisciplined penalties. They had 0 penalties last week against Epstein Island. Yesterday, they had like 11 or 12, including back-to-back 15-yard penalties on what became South Florida's game-winning drive. Just unbelievable. A pass interference, I think it was. And then the spitting. The spitting thing is funny, by the way. Because 24 hours, not even 24 hours earlier, the night before, Jalen Carter, who used to play for Georgia, now plays in the NFL and plays for the Eagles, and who Georgia has absolutely no control over whatsoever because they're literally in the NFL playing football, spit on a player in the NFL and got ejected, rightfully so. And Florida fans were all over Twitter. He's a thug. He's a loser. He should be arrested. He's a piece of shit. This would never, we're recruiting, who do y'all recruit? Blah, blah. Well, who do you recruit? Jalen Carter spits on people and has 2 natties. That deadbeated motherfucker that plays for Florida spits on people and can't beat the fucking group of 5. Maybe you ought to think about that the next time before you sit down and type out some dumb, retarded ass shit on Twitter that don't make no fucking sense. Retard. Although I doubt you will think about it because thinking in general is something that seems to be beyond your comprehension. Y'all are about the dumbest bunch of motherfuckers I've ever run across outside of... Okay, y'all aren't the dumbest. There's other people that are the dumbest. But there's not a Florida fan on earth that can sit down with me and give me a logical explanation as to why they thought Florida was winning anything this year beyond 7 or 8 games. There is not a logical way to explain that. You went 7-5 last year. You got all excited about it. Why? Because you beat a good team in November and had a quarterback that completed 2 passes or something in November and spent the rest of the time in the infirmary. And it was your coach's 3rd year, and 7-5 was the best he's ever done. And all of a sudden, you want people to believe you're a playoff contending team? Retarded, bud. And not a single one of you can logically explain to me why you thought that. There was no logical reason to think that. None. This guy spits on somebody, extends the drive or whatever it was. Florida had 2 touchdowns called back for penalties. Oh, and I don't want to hear no shit about blaming the refs. They were clearly penalties. It was clear as day. You could not score on South Florida with DJ Wagway, woo. DJ can wagway on my nuts. He lost to South Florida. He's not as good as Byron Brown. And I don't hear South Florida fans running around talking about Byron Brown's winning 19 Nobel Peace Prizes, an Emmy, a Grammy, and an MTV Video Music Award. But for some reason, every time I come across a Florida fan, they're busy pulling up their jorts, hiding a fucking crack pipe in their back pocket, and talking to me about DJ Wagway like he's the next fucking coming. No, he's not. No, he's not. Another thing that we tried to explain to the Florida fan all offseason, that all of a sudden now they're using as an excuse. Well, Lagway missed all that time in the offseason because he was injured, so he's rusty. He doesn't have the chemistry because he basically ain't played football since last December. Hey, I know that. I told you that in June and July. And 2 days ago. How about get that shit out of your ears and start listening to Uncle Lou? You might not come off as so fucking retarded on the internet. My God. Fire Billy Napier. Yeah, last year you should have, but you didn't. Why? Couldn't afford it. You couldn't afford to fire him, and you allowed yourself to be convinced that it wasn't because you couldn't afford it. It was because he's this close to turning it around. No, he's not. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's in over his head. Not every guy that wins 9 games at Louisiana Lafayette or wherever the fuck you dug this guy up from is cut out to be an SEC head coach. Butch Jones was winning 10 games a year at Cincinnati. Billy Napier is your Butch Jones. It's just... They play at LSU next week. At LSU. Then they play Miami. Somebody said yesterday they might go 1-11. I said, man, stop trolling. Then we pulled the schedule up. I asked you a minute ago, how many games left on Florida's schedule do you think are worse than South Florida, who you just lost to at home? The first time, by the way, that Florida has lost at home to a team from Florida, not named Florida State or Miami, since 1938. How many records of being dog shit does Billy Napier have to break or set before it dawns on you numbskulls that the guy is not any good? And don't even tell me now, oh yeah, I know he's not any good, we need to fire him. Y'all were saying that last year in week 2 and week 3. And then from November till yesterday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, y'all was telling me he was the greatest coach alive and was winning a natty this year. Y'all are fucking dumb. Dumb. I mean, Florida had the ball 7 times in the second half yesterday. 7. That's a lot of possessions to get in one half of football with the new clock rules. They had the ball 7 times in the second half yesterday. You know how many times they punted? 7 possessions in the second half. How many punts did Florida have in the second half? 6 against South fucking Florida. All right, I want you to tell me which of these teams are worse than South Florida. We're trying to figure out how many games now Florida's going to win or lose. Right now, they're 1-1. All right, they play at LSU. Just type in the comment. As I name the team, I just want you to type better or worse. Better if you think they're better than South Florida. Worse if you think they're worse than South Florida. At LSU. LSU is clearly better than South Florida. At Miami. Miami is clearly better than South Florida. Home against Texas. Texas is better than South Florida. At Texas A&M. Texas A&M is better than South Florida. Home against Mississippi State, who just beat a top 15 team. Mississippi State might be better than South Florida. That's the first opportunity you even have to come close to winning a game is October 18th, over a month from now, at home against Mississippi State. And you might be an underdog, even in that one. After that, you play Georgia. Georgia's better than South Florida. Then you play at Kentucky. You might win that one, but it is there. And are you going to have Lagway or anybody by then? Your whole team may have quit by then or pretended to be injured or whatever. If you're sitting on 6 or 7 losses by the time you play at Kentucky, then you got to play back another road game the next week at Ole Miss. Ole Miss is better than South Florida. Then you play Tennessee. Tennessee is better than South Florida. And then you play Florida State. That's the remainder of your schedule. South Florida was probably the 4th easiest game on your schedule. You had Epstein Island, you beat them. You had South Florida, you lost to them. You get Mississippi State at home, and you get at Kentucky. If you win both of those, you might go 4-8. I'm tempted to stand here for 5 straight minutes and see if anything that I'm telling you is sinking into that mashed potato brain of yours. Y'all are fucking terrible. Again. My comment section is open for apologies. Type down below. Florida, your season is over. Your dog shit. My guess is they're going to scrounge up the $20 million or whatever it is needed to fire Billy Napier and his entire staff. Billy Napier's, I've seen conflicting numbers. They're all between $17 million and $22 million to buy out Billy Napier. It could be the thing where maybe Billy Napier's buyout is 17 or 18 million, but the buyout for everybody else totals 3 or 4 million. And that equals, because no one ever talks about the buyouts of all the other coaches, but all the other coaches have buyouts too. They're just way lower because their salaries are way lower. But anyway, it's about $20 million to buy out Billy Napier, about $20 million. I have a feeling Florida's going to find a way to scrounge that up, but I'm not 100% certain. Rev share has really made schools reconsider firing coaches when there are significant buyouts. And if you don't think $20 million is significant, you're lying to yourself. We like to pretend that these schools have unlimited money and just print it themselves and all that. It's just not the case. They've got to pay $21 million a year now to the athletes. Last year, they knew this was coming. It started in July. They knew this was coming. The end of last season, there were only 3 Power 4 coaches fired in the entire country. The highest buyout paid amongst those 3 was $9.5 million, and that was Mac Brown at North Carolina. Juxtapose that to these buyouts we're used to seeing every year, 30, 40 million. The Jimbo Fisher, 70, 80 million. But we used to see $30, $40 million buyouts like it was nothing. $20 million is a lot of money to these universities. Do they make a lot of money? Yeah, but they spend a lot of money. And they're like, well, I was about to say something really dumb and get myself canceled. It doesn't matter how much money they want more. The donation emails are never ending. They get a $100 million a year TV contract. Don't matter. We still need $1 from you so we can put a new doorknob on the concession stand. It doesn't matter. They just always more. And now they got to pay the players. They hate that. They can't stand that. So anyway, this buyout money's drying up. Not to mention the fact that buyout money typically comes from donors. Donors are busy giving money to your NIL fund so that you can go out and buy players that can't beat fucking South Florida. Y'all are the worst run organization on the planet. An absolute fucking disgrace. Just an absolute disgrace. Y'all are terrible. Florida is a joke. And and then I'm going to move on because I've wasted enough time on these fucking half-eaten up dead bodies. It's still sad to me. And you can say, Lou's scarred from Florida beating him in the 90s. That's kind of the point. Not that I'm scarred, but I grew up in a time when Florida was one of the best football programs in America. And they were a proud fan base. They didn't have a run like Alabama's had under Saban. They didn't quite have that. But it was pretty close. I mean, they were really good every year. They won the SEC a bunch of times. Steve Spurrier won one natty. Kirby has 2. But Urban Meyer won 2 natties. They were, if you weren't alive back then, they were really good. They were like Ohio State now or Georgia now or whatever, fill in the blank. Just this team that you're like in their sleep, they're going to win 9 or 10 games. Can they win 12 is the only question. And it was a proud fan base. And I still can't get over the fact that they have shrunk to the point, I don't mean shrunk as in numbers, but they have just shriveled to the point where they literally spent 8 months bragging that they went 7-5 last year. It just blows my mind. That is just that's the most Kentucky thing I have ever heard. Was Florida fans bragging all offseason that they went 7-5 last year during the regular season. That is so Kentucky. And I can't believe it's Florida fans doing that. They still brag about losing to Georgia last year because they only lost by 2 touchdowns. What are you doing? It's a serious question. Are you really retarded? Or has being a Florida fan just beat you down to the point where you really are excited about 7-5 seasons where you only lose to Georgia by 2 touchdowns? As much as I hate Florida, it's hard for me to watch Florida fans embarrass themselves to the extent that they have in the last 8 months. It's been hard to watch. But seeing them lose in week 2 yesterday to a group of 5 team from their own state made it all worthwhile. Oh, dog shit. All right, there you go. That's the year season is over list. Who won yesterday, but could have found themselves hanging out on this wall with these deadbeats? Georgia beat Austin Peay 28-6. This was one of the ugliest games. This might be the ugliest game I've seen Georgia play against an FCS team since Nichols in 2016, Kirby's first year. A game they were lucky to win. If I remember right, they won that game 22-19 or something. And it ended up not being a good year at all. They went 7-5. And guess what? I didn't brag about it because 7-5 is fucking terrible and not acceptable at the University of Georgia, like it is apparently at Florida. But they did not look good. There was I know a lot of y'all didn't watch the game. It was on SEC Network Plus. There was a series at the end of the first half where Georgia had the ball on the 6-inch line and couldn't score on Austin Peay. They had 5 plays. There was a penalty involved, but they had 5 plays from inside the 7-yard line against Austin fucking Peay and couldn't score. They tried a couple of pass plays. They tried a couple of running plays. Nothing worked. And then on 4th and goal, the last play of the half with time running out, just piss poor blocking. A guy gets through and trips up the running back 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage. He stumbles forward, but didn't gain anything. It was bad. It was really bad. Gunnar Stockton didn't look great. No downfield passing game at all. I'm talking about everything 5 yards and in. A ton of those bubble screens out wide to the wide receivers, a lot of running back screens, very, very, very few even attempted throws downfield. It reminded me of the Georgia offense during the Jake Fromm years. Jake Fromm wasn't allowed to throw over the middle. You remember that? He had some positive traits. I know I gave him a hard time, but there was some things Jake Fromm was good at. But he literally wasn't allowed to throw over the middle. He just wasn't, which was a good thing. It looks like they've got Gunnar Stockton on that same plan, and I don't like that. Now, the defense for Georgia, I think, has played lights out 2 games in a row. 2 games in a row. They held Austin Peay to under 100 yards total offense. It's Austin Peay, but still, that's impressive. Hold anybody under 100 yards. Is it as good as the 21 and the 22 defense that Georgia had? No, come on. Those are all-time great defense. Probably never see that again. So, no, it's not that good. But I do think the defense through 2 games has looked better than it looked in 23 and 24. But the offense better be fooling me. Or I'm headed for several meltdowns this year. Seriously. Now, I am willing, whereas in the past I have not been, I am willing right now to give Kirby and Georgia the benefit of the doubt on this offense. There's a lot of talk about how they are limiting what they do these first 2 weeks. That better be the case. And I'll probably just leave it at that because this isn't a Georgia video, but they didn't look good yesterday. And if I don't say anything about it, they say I'm hiding it. So no, Georgia did not look good. It looked like shit. I don't know what's going to happen to them in the AP and the coaches poll. The AP and the coaches poll will probably already be out by the time you watch this video. I'm recording this at like 10:30 in the morning, but by the time I release the video, you probably will already seen it. But Georgia will drop in my rankings for sure. But they beat Austin Peay 28-6. Weird weather delay, but still not good. Penn State won 34-0 over FIU, but man, Drew Aller, especially in the first half, Penn State just looked terrible. They just looked absolutely terrible. 34-0. They ended up beating FIU, but not good offensively in the first half, especially. LSU and Clemson, both. They must have beat the hell out of each other in week 1 because LSU and Clemson slept through the first halves of their games yesterday. LSU was only winning 10-0 over Louisiana Tech, and Clemson was losing 16-0 to Troy. Now, both teams ended up winning fairly comfortably. Clemson wins 27-16. So after falling down 16-0 against Troy, Clemson scored the last 27 points of the game and wins 27-16. And LSU ends up winning 23-7. But, I wanted to mention what I'm about to say now when I was talking about Georgia a minute ago, but I can't do that. If I do that when I'm talking about Georgia, then y'all tell me it's just an excuse and he's just making excuses for Georgia. So I'm going to say this about LSU, Clemson, Penn State, whatever. It means absolutely nothing to me at all, less than nothing. What a good team or a highly ranked team or an elite team or a big program or however you want to classify it. It means absolutely nothing to me what the score is of their games against these lower classification teams as long as they win. Now, I point out when they play bad because that's what we do on this video, but I don't draw conclusions. Do I think LSU is suddenly terrible because they struggled yesterday with Louisiana Tech for the first half and only won 23-7? No, they're one of the most talented teams in the country. They got a great quarterback. They're going to be there in November fighting for an SEC championship spot and a playoff spot. Clemson, as bad as Clemson has looked, they're likely to be in the hunt in November for a spot in the ACC championship game. And same thing for Georgia. I don't jump to any positive or negative conclusions based off of these games where highly rated teams are playing these nobodies. The players aren't motivated. The fans don't care. They don't. Some go to the games, but they don't care. They're not loud. The environments are terrible. The playbooks are limited. Teams are playing second, third, fourth string players the entire game, rotating them in. I mean, it's just, there's no comparison between what you will see in those games versus games that actually matter against equal or close to equal competition. So I just wanted to point that out. Louisville struggled with James Madison, but gets the win. Syracuse struggled with UConn, but gets the win. Ole Miss struggles with Kentucky, but gets the win. 30-23, more on the Kentucky game in a minute. All right, now, at the beginning of this video, I showed you a score. I'm going to show it again now in case you missed the beginning of the video. Here's the score again. Now, what's the first thing that comes to your mind now? If I just said what I said about these teams playing nobody, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you see that score? Is Minnesota a top 10 team? Are they going 100-0 now? Are they winning a Natty? Are they winning the Big Ten? Are there 3 Heisman winners on Minnesota's team? I mean, they beat somebody 66-0. They must be unbelievable and amazing, right? Ohio State won 70-0. I don't give a fuck. Oregon won 69-3. I give a little bit more of a fuck about that because Oklahoma State's at least a Power 4 team. Texas won 38-7. Don't care. Florida State won 77-3. Impossible for me to care less than that. Indiana won 56-9. I guess they're winning it all. Texas Tech 62-14. Can't wait to see them in the national title game. Utah 63-9. Texas Tech versus Utah in the Natty. Mark it down. Georgia Tech won 59-12. 3-way Natty game, I guess. Don't know. I mean, if they won 59-12, they must be going to win it all. I mean, it got to be, has to be, needs to be. Not gonna be though. Northwestern won 42-7. The Ding-a-Ling Car Wash. Holy shit. Say this out loud. Big Ten champion Northwestern. Yeah, get ready for it because they beat a nobody yesterday, 42-7. Minnesota, like I showed you, 66-0. Nebraska won 68-0. How's that possible? Last week, y'all were telling me Dylan Raiola can't complete a pass and it's Pat Mahomes Jr. and Nebraska's terrible and be lucky to make a bowl game. Oh, yeah? Well, then how did they beat a nobody 68-0 yesterday? Obviously, they're winning it all. Washington beat UC Davis. That sounds like a law firm. 70-10. Tennessee, 72-17 over East Tennessee State. Arkansas, 56-14 over Arkansas State. Now, congratulations. You played bad teams and you beat them. Great. You know what's more important to me? Anybody get hurt on your team? Did you lose anybody to injury? That matters way more to me than those scores. Now, some fan bases are worse about this than others, and Tennessee is the worst defender on earth. So let's start there. Tennessee does this every fucking year. They did this last year. They beat NC State by 80. They beat some FCS and then a group of 5 team by 90. And then they spent the next however long telling everybody they were going 1-0 and winning a natty because they scored 70 points against a high school team. Then they played Georgia, and what happened? Can't get a fucking first down. You can't get a first down. Never mind score. Tennessee hasn't thrown a passing touchdown on Georgia since 2021. They play every fucking year. You haven't thrown one goddamn touchdown pass since COVID. What the fuck? No, none of this fucking matters. It doesn't matter that Georgia beat Austin Peay 28-6. It doesn't matter that Penn State won 34-0. It doesn't matter that LSU won 23-7. It doesn't matter that Clemson won 27-16. It doesn't matter Ohio State won 70-0. It doesn't matter Tennessee won 1,000,000-0. None of it fucking matters. We all saw Ohio State play Texas and fail to get a first down. We all saw it. Beating Grambling doesn't erase that. Okay? I'm not saying that to say Ohio State's bad. Fuck, I've got Ohio State ranked number 1 in the country. But not because they beat Grambling 70-0. I don't give a fuck if you beat Grambling 70-0 or 28-3. It means nothing. It doesn't mean anything. And to be fair to Ohio State, I'm not talking, Ohio State fans aren't guilty of this that I've ever seen. Bragging about dominating a low-level competition like that. You know who does it? Teams who can't win a motherfucking thing. Tennessee fans. Arkansas will be running around talking about beating Arkansas State 56-14. I guarantee you Minnesota is going to go knock on their neighbor's door and show them the box score. Look what we did. Pat me on my little fucking peanut head and give me a digital hug. My team hasn't won a fucking thing in the modern era, but we just beat the fucking Helen Keller School of the Botanical Garden, Agricultural and Mechanical A&M 66-0. Your neighbor's not going to give a fuck, and neither does Uncle Lou. It doesn't mean anything. I don't know why I spent so much time singling out Tennessee there. I can't imagine why that might be. What? What? Say what one more goddamn time. What do Marcellus Wiley look like? What? Say what one more goddamn time. Time for the We're Back Top 6. Shouldn't be a surprise. Who's at top? Miami. Of the top 6 We're Back teams, Miami is the closest to actually being back. The We're Back list, if you don't know what it is, where have you been? We've been doing this for years. Why are you dazed and confused? You should already know this. The We're Back list is a group of teams that haven't won anything in at least 10 years. No conference title, no playoff wins in at least 10 years, but their fans run around the internet telling us that they're back all the time. Miami, you're number 1. You're the closest to actually being back. You look pretty good. Problem is, you look good every 3 or 4 years, and you yet still somehow haven't won a goddamn thing since Y2K. But we'll see what you do this year. Tennessee, I'm putting you at 2, just I don't have anybody else to put there. You haven't done anything since last century. Tennessee hasn't won their conference since last century. Talking about Y2K. The last time Tennessee won something, no one had ever heard of Y2K. They didn't know what it was. It hadn't even come around yet. Jesus Christ. Texas A&M is 3rd. They started out slow yesterday, too, but then they dominated somebody. They're the 3rd closest to actually being back. Auburn's the 4th closest to actually being back. Auburn's got no defense at all. They give up 600 yards to Baylor. SEC play starts soon for them. I'm not, fuck it. Auburn's not coming off this list for a while. Nebraska, I've moved down to 5th because, again, I don't care what they did yesterday. They struggled against a bad Cincinnati team. I'm moving down to 5. Florida at 6. Florida, you're never coming off of this list. God almighty. I'm not getting back into that again. The best teams I saw play this weekend: South Florida, good win on the road at Florida. Oklahoma, huge win over Michigan at home. Brent Venables' biggest win. Yeah, probably. John Mateer looked legit. Missouri, let's give Missouri some credit. No one ever talks about them. All they do is win 9 games. No one talks about them. They lost a lot last year, and a lot of people thought they'd take a step back, myself included, and maybe they still will, but they've looked really good, and they looked good again yesterday in a win at home against Kansas. Mississippi State, I'm probably the happiest for Mississippi State fans. They never win anything. They never have a reason to celebrate. They're the most down bad fan base probably in the history of the SEC. Plus, the majority of them, every single morning of their life when they wake up, They're in Mississippi. It doesn't get much worse than that, folks. So I am glad something good finally happened for them. And Oregon, again, against Oklahoma State, but it's a Power 4 team, supposedly, and they just beat the soul out of them. If I was voting on the Heisman today, or if I had to send 3 people to the Heisman today, this isn't a projection of what I think is going to be Heisman finalists at the end of the year. This is who I would send to New York today if the Heisman ceremony were being held tonight. John Mateer, Blake Shapen, Byron Brown. That's the quarterback of Oklahoma, Mateer, South Florida, Brown, and Mississippi State, Shapen. Paper plate special, no surprise here. This team pushed a stack of divided paper plates out onto the 50-yard line in Eugene, Oregon, and took a giant runny shit in it. Instead of playing football, Oklahoma State got absolutely destroyed, 69-3 or whatever it was. And that was the score in the third quarter. And Oregon just waved away, said, "Fight, we don't even want to do this anymore." It's called off the dogs. Gundy needs to go. Constantly crying, 3-9 last year, complaining about other teams making more money than his team makes. Meanwhile, he's scheduling UT Martin, who makes way less than Oklahoma State. The guy has passed you by, but it's time to ride off into the sunset or go work for Fox News or whatever the fuck it is you want to do. Because football clearly ain't it. You look uninterested and you're not any good. So get the fuck out of Stillwater and let somebody take that job there who actually wants it. Thank you. I appreciate that. I really do. Bad beat of the week for Uncle Lou. Y'all know I bet on a lot of these games. I had Ole Miss -9. I had Ole Miss -9. Ole Miss was winning by 7 late in the game, and they had the ball. And I said, well, they're just going to run the clock out, and I'm going to lose this bet. They're going to win the game by 7. Well, they hit a big play out of nowhere on the ground. They get down inside the 5-yard line, and they would have run the clock out, but there was too much time on the clock. In other words, they had to fucking keep going. So they kick a field goal with whatever it was, 45 seconds to go in the game. They kicked a field goal to take a 10-point lead. I had Ole Miss -9. I went from losing because they were winning by 7 to winning my bet because they were winning by 10. And there's only like 50 seconds to go. And Kentucky's down 10. I'm like, they're not going to do anything. Ole Miss kicks the ball off to Kentucky. They scored a goddamn touchdown on the second play, like a 70-yard touchdown to get it back to a 7-point deal or whatever. I was so goddamn mad. So that's the Uncle Lou bad beat of the week. The end of that Kentucky Ole Miss game. Kentucky kicked. No, they didn't score a touchdown. That's right. It wasn't a touchdown. So they're 10 points down, and they kick a field goal with 10 seconds to go in a game or something to make it a 7-point game. Why? Now, I know, you get the onside kick. They were not, man, come on, man. My bets that I make is more important than that. So Kentucky gets down there and kicks a field goal, so Ole Miss ends up only winning by 7. Bad beat for Uncle Lou. Juice Poot special. Well, Juice Poot is down bad, as it turns out. Now, predictions are hard to do. I'm not going to pretend all my predictions are right. They're not. In fact, the majority are wrong, always. But I really believe that Josh Payton may have made the worst preseason predictions for this college football season in the history of preseason predictions in whatever it is people were predicting. It's up there. This guy predicted Alabama to win the Natty. They go out and lose to Florida State. He predicted Florida to make the playoffs and compete to win the SEC. They lose week 2 to South Florida, their 4th easiest game of the year. He picked Nebraska to make the playoffs. They look like shit against a terrible Cincinnati team. He picks Boise State to make the playoffs. They go out and lose week 1. I mean, this guy is in absolute shambles, just Juice Poot. But here's what he's going to talk about on his show tonight. So this will be the Juice Poot specials tonight. Michigan fans, don't worry. Juice Poot is going to tell you how good Bryce Underwear is. I came on here today and told you how bad he was, which is the truth. He was absolutely terrible yesterday. He looked like a chicken with his head cut off, looked like he didn't know where he was, but wherever he was, he didn't want to be there. He was terrible. There was nothing good about Bryce Underwear's performance yesterday. Nothing. That's the truth. If you want somebody to just make you feel better, Juice Poot's going to tell you how great Johnny Underwear or whatever his name is, your quarterback is tonight. He's, of course, going to talk about Florida and Napier. Now, my prediction, he's going to have to admit he was wrong. I actually think Josh Pate's going to come on tonight and admit he was wrong about Florida and Napier and predict Florida to have a bad season the rest of the way and fire Napier at some point before the season ends. So I'll give him credit in that he's at least facing reality 4 years too late, because the rest of us have known Napier was terrible since the day Florida hired him. But anyway, that's my prediction there. He picked Alabama to win the Natty. Alabama loses to Florida State. They go out yesterday and beat Louisiana Monroe 100-0. He's going to come on tonight and claim Bama's still winning it all. That he told you and that he was right and that they looked amazing because they beat Louisiana Monroe. That's what he'll do. He is going to brag about John Mateer. Here's to his credit, he did pick John Mateer as his Heisman winner. And right now, like I told you earlier, John Mateer, I think, has had the best performance of any quarterback in the country yesterday against Michigan. So he's going to bring that up, that he was right about that. And he's going to try to make you think that Iowa State is on par with Michigan, Ohio State, Texas, Oklahoma, Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, Florida, Army, Navy, whatever the greatest rival, whatever you think the best 5 or 6 rivalry games are. He's going to come on tonight because he was at that game yesterday and try to convince you with a straight face that game is on par with those others. It's not. It's a great game. I already told you, I loved it. Watched every play of it yesterday. I like defensive football. It doesn't bother me. I watch that game every year. But I know what I'm watching when I go into it. It ain't some kind of exciting barn-burning game. In fact, it's terrible TV because it's just it's clumsy looking. But anyway, he was there yesterday, and he pretends to be an Iowa State fan. But you know why that is, don't you? By the way, that he pretends to be an Iowa State fan? Because no one hates Iowa State. Nobody. Outside of Iowa fans. And there aren't any Iowa fans. So by pretending to be an Iowa State fan, he's not pissing anybody off. That's the only reason he pretends to be an Iowa State fan. But yeah, he's going to tell you how great that thing is there. There you go. Week 2, 2025. Your season is over. Video in the books in that. Man. Florida down bad. Alabama down bad the week before. Who will it be next week? Who will it be next week that's down super fucking bad? The Tennessee fans getting loud already. Oh, man, this is the year we're doing it. Y'all do this every year, man. Y'all do this every year. To Florida fans' credit, this is a new thing for them that they're doing, where they're winning it all every year. That's pretty new for them. But y'all been doing this every year. Oh, we're going to beat Georgia. We're going to do y'all, buddy. Y'all haven't beat Georgia since Kirby's first year. Heupel's never beat Georgia. He struggles to get a first down against Georgia. Under Heupel, Tennessee's never scored more than 2 touchdowns in a game against Georgia. You haven't thrown a passing touchdown against Georgia since 2021. Come on, man. Come on. Look, you might be able to beat Bama, even though it's a road game. You might be able to beat Florida, even though it's a road game. You're probably going to lose to Oklahoma at home. You have losses to Georgia and Oklahoma in one other game. Maybe, you're sitting there at 9-3, and maybe you'll get you a good matchup in the Gasparilla Bowl or whatever it is. You're not beating Georgia. So don't make me come on here next Sunday, Tennessee fans, and talk to you the way I had to talk to Florida fans today, okay? Just hope for a good, clean game. Maybe you can, you should hope that it's still worth watching for you in the second half. That's reasonable. But whatever you do, don't come on here with the dumb shit about how you're winning the game like you do every year. Let it go. Let it go. I know you won't. You're typing about it right now, aren't you? Are you typing about it right now? All right, anyway, that's it. Your season is over, video. Week 2. Appreciate you watching. Had a great time watching the games with y'all this weekend. We will do it again for week 3. Tomorrow night, Monday night, me and my boy Pigskin Pete will be on at 9 o'clock right here on this channel for the Lunch Money Show. That's a gambling show. We look at next week's games and try to figure out a way to lose money betting on those games. Tuesday and Thursday this week will be the call-in show, so we can call in and talk about this past weekend's games or the upcoming week 3 games. That's Tuesday and Thursday night at 9 p.m. And then I'll be live streaming, of course, next weekend during the games. But I do appreciate y'all watching. If you hadn't hit the thumbs up yet, please do that. It's a big help. It takes me 6 or 7 hours to make these videos every Sunday. And hitting the thumbs up takes you about half a second. It's literally the easiest thing you can do to help support the channel. Takes no time, effort, or energy at all. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not. I'll talk to you again soon. Have a good morning. Except the Tennessee fans. I hope you have a terrible morning.